Hi everyone, my name is Jamienorkitis and I'm a senior here at Towson, majoring in health education and promotion. I'm currently interning at GBMC with the Simulation Innovation Learning Center. So what is SILC? That is the name for short. SILC is an institution within GBMC that provides extensive health medical education to all types of professionals. We have nurses come in, we have doctors, we have support staff, we have all types of GBMC employees come in. So SILC is home to various mannequins, which are models that can mimic humans by doing things like breathing, blinking, speaking, and other things that model a real patient. But we also have a few other skills labs that we do. So this is just a look at some of the mannequins here at SILC. So these are some of the higher fidelity mannequins, which means that they can do more things that mimic human behavior. We have lower fidelity mannequins that we can also do some things on, but they're not as high tech as these guys right here. So we have a middle-aged man, we have a pregnant woman, her name is Simone, with her baby, and then we have this lovely gal here who is dressed up as a pirate for Halloween. Here's a look at some of the rooms that we have here at SILC. So each room mimics a real room in the hospital. So on the left we have the critical care room, which is typically like an ICU room. On the right we have the OR, which we don't do as many simulations with because it's hard to simulate operating, but we still do have that. And then we have the control room where we control the high fidelity mannequins. So we do these things called simulations, which I said earlier. And simulations are basically just medical scenarios that are scripted and that we have to perform on the mannequins. So as you can see here, we have a bunch of computers. Each mannequin has their own computer, and that's how we operate them during the simulations. Here's two more rooms. On the left we have the outpatient room. It's typically used as an emergency room. And then on the right we have the inpatient room, which is used as a med-surg room or a telemetry room. So what do we do here at SILC? We run many educational programs. These programs include live simulation, which I mentioned before, that involves the high fidelity mannequins. We have skills labs that teach learners individual skills, such as managing chest strains. We have IV arms that we can perform phlebotomy on, and we have a bunch of other skills that we do teach. We have other skills such as ergonomics, which could be moving patients from wheelchairs to beds. We have our environmental services come in so they can learn how to clean the rooms with patients in the rooms. So we just do a bunch of different things here at SILC, basically education on a hospital level setting. So what do we as interns do at SILC? We basically are responsible for knowing what is going on for that particular day. Each day is different. We have different programs every single day. So we basically just have to determine where and when these events are going to occur. We set up for the events. We get everything prepared for the educators. And we operate the mannequins, as I said earlier. So with the computer system, we can change their stats, we can change their blood pressure, their heart rate, their respiratory rate. We can change a lot of things about these mannequins to simulate and make it as real as possible. We also troubleshoot errors. We use a lot of technology, so obviously there's going to be some errors and troubles with that technology, so we do a lot of that. Organizing, and then we also act as standardized patients. That was one of my projects that I've worked on, which I will explain later what a standardized patient is. So typically I work Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30. So that's a very typical day for me. Sometimes we come in a little bit later depending on what we have scheduled. For instance, I'll work 10 to 6 sometimes. My internship experience is 100% in person, and there's no option for a virtual or hybrid experience. How did I choose this internship? I did a lot of research. That is something that is very important when choosing an internship site. It shows a lot of initiative for the preceptors, so when they see that you've done research, it's a really good look for you. I also attended all of the events that were made available to us, so I was able to learn about the different sites and what each site offered, so that is extremely important that you participate in those. And I acted fast because the sites get taken up really quickly, so if you're super interested in a site, I would recommend to act on it as fast as possible so that you can secure it. Sorry. Okay, so what should you consider when selecting a site? Obviously what I mentioned in the last slide, but also site location is really important. If you are in person, it's important that you have a site that's within a close range of you. I live only 15 minutes away from GBMC, so I knew that that was a good option for me. The line of work that the site is involved in is also super important. Each site is different and they do different things, so it's important to do your research, like I said, so that you know what each site does on a daily basis. The site requirements are also really important to consider because I had to get a lot of vaccinations to get this internship. I had to get a background check. I had to get a drug screening. Each site is different with the requirements, but it is definitely something to consider. And lastly, is the site in person? Is the experience virtual, or is it a mix of both? That's an important consideration nowadays, especially with COVID. So some pros of working at Silc is that simulation is a growing field. It's really hands-on. It's really exciting. So it gives you a lot of opportunity to expand your horizons. And simulation also gives you experience with the medical field. So if you're interested in maybe going into nursing once you graduate, this would be a great site to really get that experience and see if that's actually something that you would want to do. So some cons are that some days are busier than others, obviously, and that's with every place, but that is a consideration. And that troubleshooting is a big part of the position. So like I said, we work with technology. So with technology comes problems with that technology, so it's kind of up to us to figure out what's going wrong with that. So if you're not a big tech person, then this might not be the place for you. And then lastly, there's no opportunity for obtaining a position at Silc in the near future. It's something to consider because a lot of people try to get matched with a site where they have an opportunity to get a job after graduation, but here is not possible, and that's okay. So a project that I've been working on is training and participating as a standardized patient in sexual assault scenarios as part of an emergency department skills class. So a standardized patient is a live actor that is trained to act as a patient in simulations that require the use of a real person rather than a mannequin, excuse me. So SPs are used a lot in times where there's a lot of talking involved, where there's difficult conversations involved. So a project that I've been working on specifically is the sexual assault scenario SP training. So as you can see here, this is a picture of me acting as a SP. I had to fill in for someone earlier in the semester, so this is a lovely picture of me pretending like I'm bleeding out, so that was really fun. So I just want to talk about the SAVE program briefly because that is who is basically sponsoring this class. The SAVE program is an organization that is open 365 days a year to offer examinations and resources to sexual assault victims, as well as domestic violence victims. So the SAFE program is coordinated by registered nurses who are specifically trained to care for victims of rape, sexual assault, child abuse, intimate partner violence, human trafficking. So they perform medical forensic examinations in a private secure suite, which is a separate office in GBMC. And we also at SAFE, they provide resources, education on domestic violence, safety planning, danger assessment. So that is a great thing. So these are just some statistics about sexual assault and domestic violence. If you want to pause and read them, that's fine. But I did think it was really important to include these because it's just not something that you really think about how prevalent it is in our society. And it really is extremely prevalent, which is very disturbing. So at Silk, we perform simulations involving SPs, like I said. So part of my project has been acting as one of the SPs. So I play a sexual assault victim. It has taken a lot of training. I want to do it honor because these patients are extremely vulnerable. So I've put a lot of energy and effort into making this as realistic as possible for these learners, because at the end of the day, they are going to be the first people to come into interaction with these patients. So this is just a look at one of the scenarios. This is the scenario that I did. If you want to pause and read it, this is just what I've been working on to help educate these learners. So as the SP, I am guided to act a certain way, and not every patient is going to act like this, obviously, but this is how I am best able to teach the learners about how to respond in situations like that. And this is a look at how the medical professionals should respond to reports of sexual assault and domestic violence. So it's important to ensure confidentiality, to be non-judgmental, asking about history of violence without pressuring victims to speak, and giving them resources. So these are all very good things that theoretically you would want if there is a patient that comes into the ED with this problem. So that was just a look at my project. So that was extremely fulfilling. It was very rewarding to be able to help these nurses learn how to compassionately care for victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. So next, I wanted to talk about what have I learned here that I didn't think I would use. Grant writing was something I didn't think I would use, but it has really helped me improve my writing. And then I use a lot of knowledge from A&P 1 and 2 for this internship, since it is working in a medical field. And what do I wish I would have learned? I wish I would have learned more about public health. I wish there were more classes available. I know that there's not a public health program here at Towson, but that is something that would have interested me. Some things that you should know for level 400 classes is that be ready to do hands-on work. You're going to actually be planning a health education program, which is super rewarding. It's a lot of hard work, but it is very cool to see your efforts being actually executed in the real world. So that's great. Be familiar with Excel. There's a class that is very heavy on Excel, so be prepared for that. Be ready to write, but you guys already are with being in Health 315. And there's a lot of planning and evaluation involved in these classes, so just be ready to be hands-on. And so that is it from me. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at jnorki2@students.towson.edu. Thanks so much.